So imagine sitting on your couch on a completely regular Tuesday morning.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Right. And you look in the fridge and you realize you are completely out of fresh vegetables for dinner tonight.
Oh, the classic Tuesday dilemma.
Exactly. And as you close the fridge door, your phone slips, hits the floor, and the case just shatters. You need a new one.
Oh, no.
Yeah, bad luck. Oh, and while you're standing there looking at the broken case, you finally decide it is time to stop repairing your 10-year-old car and just, buy a brand new vehicle.
Wow. Okay, that escalated really quickly.
It really did. Now, picture pulling out that same phone and buying all three of those things. The broccoli, the protective case, and the actual automobile.
All from the phone?
All from the exact same device, without ever leaving your living room.
That's pretty amazing.
But the most shocking part isn't even the variety. The shock is that the fresh vegetables will be knocking on your front door in about 30 minutes.
It sounds like a fabricated thought experiment, right? Designed to just test the absolute limits of consumers.
Oh.
But for hundreds of millions of people, that scenario isn't a hypothetical at all. It is literally just the baseline expectation for a regular Tuesday.
Welcome to the Deep Dives, everyone. Today we are immersing ourselves in a really comprehensive cultural dialogue transcript. It maps out the mechanics, the staggering scale, and the universal vocabulary of the Chinese e-commerce landscape.
It's a fascinating source to dig into.
It really is. And our mission for this deep dive is to figure out the underlying logic of this whole ecosystem. We're going to explore how these platforms achieve delivery speeds that honestly warp our perception of time.
They really do.
And how they've effectively turned solitary online shopping into this highly interactive, gamified team sport. Plus, we'll look at what practical terminology we can all use to navigate a digital marketplace like this.
I love that. And, the sources we're looking at today make one thing abundantly clear. This is not simply a review of a few popular shopping apps.
Right, it's bigger than that.
Much bigger. We are looking at a fundamental rewiring of consumer expectations. E-commerce in this context has moved way beyond being just a convenient alternative to the physical store.
It's the main event now.
Exactly. It has become the primary infrastructure for acquiring almost anything. And that requires a complete shift in how humans interact with the concept of waiting, wanting, and trusting.
So before we can analyze the psychology of how people shop in this ecosystem, we have to establish the physical reality of what these platforms are pulling off. Because, the scale entirely changes the context.
Yeah, absolutely. The logistics are wild.
Right. The sources detail a platform called Taobao, which operates as the ultimate everything store. And I wasn't using hyperbole with that opening example.
No, you really weren't.
The transcript explicitly notes you can buy a toothbrush, order a custom sofa, or literally select a car model, pay for it through the app, and have the vehicle delivered to your house.
The sheer breadth of that, the infinite aisle basically, is the foundation. But the true disruptor, according to the sources, is the speed of fulfillment.
Yes, the speed.
Right. Another major platform highlighted is JD, which is renowned for its delivery velocity. They operate on a standard rule. If a consumer places an order before 11 a.m., that order is expected to arrive on the exact same day.
Which is already a logistical marvel, right?
Definitely.
But then the sources introduce HEMA, which focuses on fresh food and groceries. HEMA promises delivery in about 30 minutes.
30 minutes? That's just incredible.
When I read that, I kept trying to find a parallel. And the closest thing we have in many other countries is ordering a hot pizza.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
But with HEMA, instead of a cooked pizza, you are ordering the raw flour, the tomatoes, the fresh mozzarella, and a brand new pizza cutter. And all of those disparate items still arrive in the time it takes to watch a single episode of a sitcom.
It's amazing. And if you take that analogy a step further and look at the behavioral implications, it's huge. Because in many countries, the standard delivery window for general e-commerce is still, 3 to 7 days?
Yeah, at least, sometimes more.
Right. And that built-in delay acts as a mandatory cooling off period for the consumer. You have time to think about it.
Oh, I see what you mean.
But when your delivery window shrinks from a week to 30 minutes, that cooling off period completely vanishes. The digital marketplace is suddenly competing with the physical world in real time.
That is insane. And it raises a massive question about human planning. Like, if the raw ingredients for dinner can arrive in 30 minutes, the entire concept of the weekly grocery run becomes obsolete.
You've got it exactly.
You no longer need to predict what you might want to eat on Thursday when it's only Monday. You just wait until Thursday at 5 p.m. and hit a button. It totally changes our relationship with delayed gratification.
It really does.
But logically, how does a system even guarantee a 30-minute window without the entire supply chain collapsing under its own weight? I mean, you can't just mandate away city traffic or physically move a truck faster than the speed limit.
You really can't, and that's the genius of it. The sources emphasize that this level of speed is the result of a deeply integrated logistical network.
Okay.
While the transcript doesn't detail the granular code of the back end, the implication of perfect execution at this speed means e-commerce is no longer just an overlay on top of existing postal routes.
So it's not just regular mailmen driving faster.
Exactly. The fulfillment network has to be woven into the very fabric of the city itself. When delivery is that fast, the city essentially becomes the warehouse.
Wow. The city's the warehouse. I love that.
And the psychological shift for the consumer is profound. Think about it. When hitting a button is literally faster and requires less effort than walking 4 blocks to the local supermarket, online shopping transitions from an occasional convenience into just a daily reflex.
A daily reflex. That makes so much sense. But if logistics completely remove the friction of acquiring an item, the platforms are still left with one big hurdle. They have to constantly generate the desire to buy.
Yes, the motivation.
And this is where the sources reveal a brilliant pivot. These platforms didn't stop at making shopping fast. They completely gamified the experience.
They really did. It's so interactive now.
They took the checkout process, which for the last 2 decades of the internet has been a very solitary, quiet, private action, and turned it into a highly public social event.
We are talking about the evolution of social commerce here, because the original iteration of the internet actually stripped the social aspect away from shopping.
Right, it was just you and a screen.
Historically, humans shopped in markets, right? It was communal. E-commerce put us alone in a room.
Yeah.
But what we see in this transcript is the deliberate re-engineering of the digital space to bring that communal aspect back, just, amplified to a scale that was previously impossible.
The prime example in the sources is a platform called Pinduoduo, which pioneered this team purchase model.
Oh, this is a great example.
The mechanics are fascinating. You find a product you want, but instead of just paying the lifted price, you are incentivized to share a link to that product with your friends.
Right, to get them in on it.
Yeah. If you convince enough people in your social circle to buy it with you, the price drops for everyone involved. It immediately reminded me of teenagers wandering through a physical shopping mall, hunting for group bargains and influencing each other's purchases.
That's a perfect visual. And the underlying mechanism there is incredibly shrewd. By intertwining the shopping experience with massive social networks, specifically messaging apps like WeChat, which the sources note are ubiquitous for sharing these links, the platform fundamentally alters the cost of customer acquisition.
Because the platform isn't paying for ad space on a billboard or a search engine. The consumer is literally doing the marketing for them.
Correct. But consider the social dynamic of that transaction. You are essentially converting your personal social capital, your friendships, and your group chats into a currency that buys you a discount.
That is wild.
It monetizes the social network. The user feels a sense of victory because they negotiated a lower price through teamwork, while the platform acquires multiple new customers for the marginal cost of a slight discount. It is a perfect alignment of incentives.
That makes logical sense for group buying. But the sources highlight another major pillar of social commerce that feels, honestly, a lot more chaotic: live streaming.
Oh, yes. Live streaming is huge.
Platforms like Taobao Live and Douyin feature hosts who sell products in real-time video feeds. And the transcript describes these hosts using incredibly urgent phrasing. Things like, only 100 left, or special price for today only.
Trading that urgency, yeah.
My initial reaction to this was pure skepticism. I mean, is this not just the digital equivalent of those late-night TV infomercials just repackaged for a smartphone?
I get why you'd think that, but labeling it as a modernized infomercial severely underestimates the psychology at play here.
Really? How so?
Well, a television infomercial is entirely asynchronous and one-directional. Someone talks at you, and you make a private decision to call a phone number. Live streaming commerce is a synchronous, shared, and highly interactive event.
Oh, because the viewers are commenting in real time, sending reactions, and purchasing all within the exact same interface where they're watching the video.
Exactly. And that shared interface completely weaponizes the concept of FOMO, the fear of missing out.
FOMO, it gets us all.
It really does. In a physical store, if you see only 2 items left on a shelf and another shopper is reaching for them, your brain triggers a visceral, competitive response.
You just want to grab it.
Yes, live streaming digitizes that exact feeling. When the host yells that there are only 100 items left, it isn't an abstract marketing claim. You can literally watch the inventory counter ticking down on your screen in real time as other viewers in the chat hit the buy button.
It creates an auction-like atmosphere, but one where everyone can win if they just click fast enough.
Which bypasses the rational, deliberative part of the human brain completely. You aren't evaluating whether you actually need the item. You are evaluating whether you are willing to lose out to the thousands of other people watching the same stream.
Yeah.
It transforms a standard retail transaction into a high-stakes entertainment event driven by verifiable scarcity.
If a single live stream can cause thousands of impulse buys by weaponizing that sense of urgency, what happens to the infrastructure when the entire country experiences that exact same FOMO simultaneously?
That is the big question.
The sources outline the ultimate stress test for this entire ecosystem, Singles Day.
November 11th, or Double 11. It is the crucible of the Chinese e-commerce calendar.
The numbers provided in the sources are almost difficult to comprehend. It is the big... Yeah. And last year, the total sales for the event topped 1 trillion yuan. 1 trillion. The transcript points out that this figure eclipses the combined sales of Black Friday and Cyber Monday.
It's staggering. And processing 1 trillion yuan of highly concentrated consumer demand is a massive technical feat. But the server capacity is only half the story here.
Right, because you still have to deliver all that stuff.
Exactly. The sources explicitly note that despite millions of packages being ordered in a matter of hours, the delivery system absorbs the shock and handles the volume almost flawlessly within a few days.
I am stuck on the human element of that trillion yuan figure, honestly. For an event of that magnitude to even exist, you need millions of people to be perfectly comfortable parting with a significant amount of money all at the exact same time.
They have to feel safe doing it.
Right. The friction of the checkout process has to be virtually zero.
And that is where the sources point to the mechanisms of digital trust. Look at how the payments are structured. They utilize platforms like Alipay and WeChat Pay. In many e-commerce environments, buying an item requires navigating a multi-step portal, typing in a 16-digit credit card number, entering a billing address, and verifying a security code. Every single one of those steps is an opportunity for the consumer's rational brain to intervene and say, actually, you know what? I don't need this.
It's friction. Time spent typing is time spent reconsidering.
Exactly. But with Alipay and WeChat Pay, the sources note that consumers are simply scanning QR codes.
Just a quick scan.
Yeah. The transaction happens in milliseconds. The physical friction of parting with money is entirely eliminated. But the physical friction is secondary to the psychological friction.
You mean the anxiety of buying something you can't actually touch? Like, will the shirt fit? Does the sofa look cheap in person? Will this actually arrive?
Yes, exactly that. The moment of highest anxiety in the digital marketplace is the second before you commit to the purchase. To achieve a trillion yuan sales day, the platform must absorb all of that perceived risk.
So how do they do it?
The sources highlight Taobao's 7-day, no questions asked return policy. And that's alongside a customer service expectation where sellers reply to chat inquiries in literal seconds.
Wow. It's easy to look at a return policy as just a standard perk of retail.
Yeah.
But in the context of a hyper-competitive trillion yuan event, you're saying the return policy is the actual engine driving the sales.
It is the load-bearing pillar of the entire trust system. If a consumer knows unequivocally that they can receive an item, try it on, decide they don't like the shade of blue, and hand it back to a courier the next day for a full, effortless refund, while the psychological stakes of hitting buy drop to zero.
The hesitation just evaporates.
Exactly. The extreme sales volume of Singles Day is only possible because the platform has engineered an environment where the act of spending money feels entirely risk-free.
That dynamic of risk and power brings us to the final element of the sources. To fully participate in a marketplace moving at this velocity, whether you are analyzing global trends or actively shopping, you really need the right tools.
Vocabulary, right.
Yes. The transcript provides a really practical, universal vocabulary of e-commerce. And actually, let's slow down for a second here. For anyone listening who really wants to grasp these terms, let's go through them clearly.
That's a great idea. Let's make sure these keywords stand out.
All right, the sources highlight functional terms like add to cart, checkout, free shipping, track my order.
Very important ones.
Return policy, refund, leave review, and discount.
Perfect.
Now, anyone who has ever bought a pair of socks online knows what these phrases mean on a surface level. We don't need to define them. But if we look at this vocabulary list structurally, it maps out a fascinating tug of war between the platform and the consumer.
It really does. It is essentially a framework for accountability. When you navigate a digital marketplace, you are navigating a power dynamic.
If we break that dynamic down, terms like add to cart and checkout represent the platform's power. They hold the inventory, they control the pricing, and they dictate the terms of the initial transaction. You are essentially playing on their field.
But the moment the transaction clears, the power begins to shift toward the consumer. And that's anchored entirely by the concepts of the review and the refund.
Right. In a marketplace where sellers are expected to respond to messages in seconds, the review isn't just a suggestion box. It's a weapon.
It dictates the algorithmic survival of the seller. Think about it. A platform with millions of identical products relies on search algorithms to surface items to the buyer. Those algorithms are heavily weighted by consumer feedback.
So a bad review is devastating.
A detailed negative review doesn't just hurt a seller's feelings. It actively buries their visibility in the infinite aisle. It cuts off their oxygen.
And the refund is the ultimate failsafe. Without the seamless ability to demand your money back, the trust evaporates. The FOMO turns into resentment, and the entire gamified system we talked about earlier just grinds to a halt.
Absolutely.
The platform's ability to sell 1 trillion yuan in a day relies completely on the consumer's power to reverse any of those transactions with a single click.
These simple vocabulary words review, refund, track, return are the checks and balances of the digital economy. They force massive, highly automated logistical machines to remain deeply accountable to the individual user just sitting on their couch.
It is incredible to pull back and look at the whole picture the sources have painted for us today. I mean, we started with the sheer logistical dominance of getting fresh groceries delivered in 30 minutes, which fundamentally alters how humans plan their lives and view delayed gratification.
It really is a paradigm shift.
Then we unpack the psychological mechanisms of social commerce, how platforms leverage our social capital and weaponize FOMO through real-time interactive live streams that totally bypass our rational decision-making.
And we examine the ultimate stress test of Singles Day, revealing that a trillion yuan event isn't just a technical achievement, but a triumph of engineering digital trust through those frictionless QR payments and zero-risk return policies.
And finally, we laid out the universal vocabulary that serves as the consumer's toolkit for maintaining leverage and accountability in an increasingly automated world. The insights from this cultural transcript aren't just about how people in one country buy things. They really provide a blueprint for the future of global retail.
They absolutely do.
Which brings us back to you, the listener. Think about your own digital reflexes. How has your patience for delivery times eroded over the last 5 years?
That's a great question to ask yourself.
And when you find a great deal online, what is the psychological impulse that makes you want to immediately drop that link into a group chat with your friends? The standards of consumption are just shifting beneath our feet.
They are. And considering the trajectory of those shifting standards leaves us with a critical, maybe even a provocative question to ponder.
Yeah, that's that.
Well, as fulfillment networks become so deeply integrated that delivery speeds approach near instantaneity, and as the act of shopping transitions entirely into a highly entertaining, interactive social event right on our mobile screens, what is the ultimate fate of physical retail space?
And that is a big question.
Will the brick-and-mortar storefronts in our cities eventually become obsolete, serving only as nostalgic museums dedicated to how we used to acquire goods? Or, in order to survive the speed and scale of the digital infinite aisle, will every physical store be forced to tear out their cash registers and transform into an interactive live streaming studio?
Wow, it's a surreal concept to grapple with, because the next time you drop your phone and shatter the case, you might find yourself replacing it by joining a live stream with 10,000 other people, relying on the speed of your thumb to beat the ticking inventory counter, and having the new case handed to you by a courier before you even have time to clean up the broken pieces.
Yeah.